Hi, we have Falcon here today. He was gracious enough to share his story. When he was much younger, he actually died. And I will not tell any more about it. We're going to let Falcon tell his story.
So, around 1991, as Dr. Tina mentioned, I was younger and I was breaking up a fight. And while doing so, I turned my head, seen this guy come at me through my peripheral vision, and instinctively I turned, grabbed him, picked him up, and on the way down, I was shot. And the bullet hit me point blank in the chest, which hit me, bounced around, hit every organ in my body, and exited out the back. So I tried getting up and immediately collapsed. Couldn't breathe, was struggling to breathe. Kind of sum it up, I begged God to save my life. Then it got so difficult, I begged God to take my life because I got just tired of struggling to breathe. So I blanked out, passed out. Well, it was told to me it took about 20 minutes for the paramedics to get there. And once they arrived, they rushed me to UPMC. So immediately they took me into the ER, and they did the exploratory surgery, which immediately when they opened up my chest cavity, they said it just exploded with blood. And they put me on a rapid transfuser, which as quickly as they were pumping the blood in me, it was exiting because it turned out my aorta was lacerated. So what it prevented me from bleeding out, it formed an aneurysm, but once they opened it up, it just exploded. So
So, Falcon, before this all happened, how would you characterize your life?
um, I was I was very active, very athletic. Um, there was no, you know, uh, fighting or gangs or anything like that. I was working uh, at the time in a relationship, dating someone, and I grew up. My brothers and I, we went to church. Every Sunday. Um, it was a church bus that came and picked us all up. We went to church. One of the ministers actually lived up the street from us. So I was I was saved, baptized, but I wasn't someone that was just really actively involved in church. But I wasn't a bad person either. So one would think, oh, he was out there gang banging or involved with shady characters. Wasn't the case at all. Um, the night that I was shot just happened to be some shady people there, and what had happened, I overheard them saying they were going to go after a particular person. That particular person was my younger brother. So when I questioned him about it, that's when everything sparked and started, I guess, to get a little hairy. So again, when I turned my head, this guy come rushing at me, had the gun out, apparently went off. He says it was an accident, but he had ill intentions, and it was just it all happened just so fast, and
Okay, so you then were in the emergency room of the hospital, and do you remember anything or what happened?
yeah, what's really bizarre, uh, when I got to the, I guess, ER, and then they prepped me, got me ready for surgery, and I was out, but I thought I had come to or something. I asked the doctors when I was able to talk after the surgery, did I come out of the anesthetic or something? The doctor said, no, there's no way that would happen. He's like, let me ask you, why do you ask? I said, because I seen you. I seen what you did, what, who was there, and the procedure, everything. And I told him to the T of what they did. And he was just amazed. He said, I've heard of these stories before, and I was never a believer until now, because you're absolutely right to the T. And at the time, it made medical history because of the damage that was done to me and the number of hours I was in surgery. I was in surgery for about 34 hours, and they used, 18 and a half hours, and they used over 34 units of blood on me. And I have type O negative blood, which is really rare. So I'm watching what they're doing to me, and I'm hovering over my body, and it was just really peaceful, very calm. And at first I didn't recognize myself, and then I'm looking, and it's like, wow. But you have a feeling of consciousness. You're aware of what's going on, but there's no pain. It's just peace.
So do you feel like you were you? Like, did you feel like you were the same, but then you
Yes.
saw your body?
Yes, you have a connection with your body. I still felt it was me, but I felt larger than me, if that makes sense. And I just remember not wanting to connect with my body because of all the damage that was done, and watching them do what they were doing.
What do you remember seeing them do?
Well, one of the things I recall was they had working on my aorta. It was almost like my lung was being bypassed to get to my heart. And just several different things, with, it's a little gray because it was so long over, 30 years ago, but it seemed like they had my left lung out to work on patching up other things in my body. So as I'm watching this, they had said I had flatlined for a little over 2 minutes. And for me, it just seemed like forever. And I was drawn to a soft whirlpool of light in the OR. And as I'm being drawn towards it, I'm looking at myself, and, I wanted as much distance from that body as I possibly could. So as I wanted to connect with my body, I didn't want to because of the amount of damage that was being, or the things they were doing, and the damage that was done to it. But the feeling I had was just peace and just calm and joy. And I remember looking down at my body one last time, and my thought was, well, I'm not going back in there. And as I turned towards the light, something felt like a huge hand just pushed me back into my body. And I never got to cross through the light. I didn't get to see what was beyond it. I was compelled and drawn towards it, but for some reason, I was prevented from going through it. So when I did come to in the hospital, when I was able to talk, tubes everywhere, I was just miserable. I was depressed. I survived one of the worst traumas someone could go through. And I should have been, just full of joy and happiness, but I felt rejected from the light. And that's kind of what makes my story a little different. The light, as I recall, was kind of like a misty, foggy, kind of stormy whirlpool of light that I was drawn to. And it was very, 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 very welcoming, but I never got to enter through it. And as I was going to, though, that's when this huge hand just pushed me back into my body. And days later, recovered, woke up in a hospital, had tubes everywhere. It took me a while before I could talk, but as the doctors would come by and they would ask me and check on me, when I was finally able to talk, the doctor asked me, a few questions. And what's really interesting, this doctor was new. He was not supposed to be in the hospital that night. His name was Dr. Anthony Udakwa. He saved my life. The will of God put him there that night to save my life. Because when he brought me in, he said, I want to scrub in. If he did not scrub in, I would not be here today. God put him there for that particular reason. And 100% am I blessed to still be here. For years I've always tried to figure out why, what's the reason. And I would say, to meet my wife and have my children. And probably to do other things. But that man, no way. He just happened to show up that night. He just wanted to introduce himself to staff and everything. And they brought me in and he said, I'm scrubbing in. And he truly was there to save me.
So, when you were out of the body in the room, like, could you hear
Yeah.
people?
You could hear everything. I could hear the doctors. I could also feel the uncertainty and tension amongst themselves. Because they told me, the doctor said it best. He said, I didn't know what I was doing. He said, the grace of God got me through it. He said, I wasn't a believer until now. And that itself is pretty powerful, the trauma that was, that I experienced, having every organ damaged, they just had to check things off and repair this, repair that. The first thing though was stopping the bleeding of the aorta. They replaced my aortic valve, and then from there, they were able to.
Okay, so to end here, Falcon, how has that experience changed your life?
Well, immediately after when I was able to walk and just get out there back into the public, it took me about a year before I could walk upright. I had to move back in with my parents. In middle of August, I had fevers and wearing blankets and had a heater because I was just always cold. So the healing process was tough, but I was just compelled to tell people about what happened to me. And just, anyone going through different struggles and hard times, I'd let them know there's more to what we know about life. And it's a peaceful thing. And your spirit has a consciousness. And you're just compelled to want to do better for people. I was driven by something I can't explain, to just help others and just be there for people. Probably why I'm in the field I am today. I deal with people's hardships and finances and try to guide them in a better direction. So it just really made me aware of other people's feelings, other people's sufferings, and just trying to really help calm and do better for other people.
All right, thank you very much for sharing.
You're welcome.
Okay.